Hello, my name is Matthew Gallup Baker, and my partners are Charity Gilbert and David Foster. We are presenting on civil discourse for our expository writing class. Now, the article 3 Steps to Civil Discourse defines civil discourse as a conversation in which there's a mutual airing of views without rancor. In other words, all opinions can be expressed without resentfulness of any kind. Civil discourse can take place anywhere, in school, online, and in daily life as well. To discuss civil discourse online and in college, we'll turn to my partner, Charity.
Hello, my name is Charity, and I found an article titled Civil Discourse in the Age of Social Media. The premise of the article was to encourage higher education institutions to take more of an active role in ensuring that discourse circulated amongst students, whether it's on campus face-to-face or through social networking sites like Twitter or Reddit or Facebook, that it's conducted civilly and respectfully. In doing so, it highlights a lot of the implications associated with online civil discourse. And I thought it was really interesting because it sort of allowed me to self-reflect and see how, in retrospect, I had been influenced by some of these barriers. And I just want to kind of talk about them and see if maybe you guys have been influenced by them too. So with all that said, the first obstacle I want to discuss has to do with tone. So the article talks about a study that discovered that it was nearly impossible to accurately interpret an individual's tone based off of an email they sent. And this is even in instances where both the recipient and the sender were very comfortable with one another, and they are very confident that it would be very easy to decipher the tone. And this is because of the fact that 85% of communication is nonverbal. So eye contact, hand gestures, body language, tone, volume, things like that. Even to the point where if you're ever in a conflict with an individual's verbal communication and their nonverbal communication, they seem to be saying different things, it's been proven that we tend to kind of inherently just side with the nonverbal and believe whatever messages we're gathering from that. So this is kind of problematic when it comes to civil discourse conducted online, because the discourse itself is being shortened. And so we have these small blocks of communication, like a Facebook status or a text message or a tweet. And there's fewer contextual clues, and it's just making it quite challenging to, perceive or understand an individual's tone, purpose, or intention. And this is relevant to civil discourse because the whole purpose of civil discourse is to enhance your own understanding. And you can't really do that if you're not able to accurately interpret anything that the discourse itself is trying to say. Another issue the article talks about has to do with the fact that online civil discourse can often have real-world consequences. So, for example, 45% of employers will actually check an applicant's social media sites during the interview process. And even if you are, doing everything right, you're being respectful and you're being open, and your only purpose for engaging in discourse is to increase your understanding and you're sharing your opinion and you're being receptive of someone else's opinion. If you're talking about things and you're sharing an opinion that a future employer doesn't agree with, that could potentially harm your chances of getting hired. And unfortunately, a lot of people are aware of this. So in response, they sort of just silence themselves, and they don't engage in civil discourse online, at least, at all, which is really kind of unfortunate if you think about it. So, like I said, the whole premise of the article was really to encourage higher education institutions to, create policies and stuff that would kind of dictate online civil discourse as well as, face-to-face discourse. And I thought it was kind of interesting because the concern was really with our demographic, which is college students. And whether or not you disagree with the fact that, the colleges should be involved or should not, I think what's most important is understanding what these barriers are in order to not allow yourself to be manipulated by them. So with all that said, something I want you guys to consider is if you've ever been in a situation where, you've posted something or you've been engaging in a conversation and it became, instantly apparent that something you said was misinterpreted because of the fact that, Facebook can't always communicate tone and gestures and things like that. Or if, you've ever come across something that just instantly upset you and you decided to engage in uncivil discourse right away because you were so upset. And then later it becomes apparent that maybe you misinterpreted something. And then I want you to consider if these situations have shaped the way you go about engaging in civil discourse online, or the kinds of impacts that they've had on you moving forward. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing you guys' response.
But that's just college and online discourse. What about teaching students in high school in their developmental years? Furthermore, what about civil discourse and face-to-face interactions? The article 3 Steps to Civil Discourse, found by my partner David, discusses the importance of classroom teachers in helping students develop the skills necessary for having civil discussions, and 3 ways teachers can help students learn these skills to engage in them. The first point the article makes is beginning with the teacher. An effective role model facilitates civil discourse in classrooms and shows students what civil discourse is like, and plants the seed that all views are welcome. The best way for a role model to do this is through Carl Rogers' idea of unconditional acceptance, wherein students must view their teacher as being on their side, and that they will be protected from any humiliation that comes from airing their views. This also creates an environment where a student with rigid and extreme views can become more willing to hear opposing views in a non-judgmental way. The second point is to control and monitor your classroom climate. A classroom can be too hot, as that will lead to overly heated discussions where students lose their temper and become more emotional than rational. On the other hand, a student can't become too cold. That can lead to timid students keeping their potentially controversial opinions to themselves. Students must be able to trust the teacher and their ability to keep the classroom environment safe for them to express their views authentically before they can risk opening up and saying anything disputable. One way for this to be done is to state the dialogue exceptions from the start and set clear boundaries for students. A part of monitoring this climate is ensuring that the basic rule of civil discourse is followed. Stick to the issues. Feel free to use logic, persuasion, or evidence, but don't let anything become personal. In addition, things like profanity, name-calling, shouting, and similar acts are considered highly disrespectful, of course. It is important to remember, however, that civil discourse has some traditionally accepted rules. However, the people involved in the discussion ultimately decide what is civil and what is not. This applies largely to the real world, though. In a classroom environment, it's the teacher's job to establish these rules. The third step was to start small and build as skills develop. You can't expect students to get it right the first time, and you can't expect them to start with controversial topics immediately. Overall, we've seen how civil discourse is present both online and in schools, and how these seeds of civil discourse can be planted early in the developmental process. Students can learn how to engage in civil discourse from a young age, and this ability can stay with them throughout their lives, both online and in person. We've further seen how civil discourse online can come back in the future when job hunting and things like that. We also saw how things past just language affect civil discourse. Tone, body language, and more have serious effects on how discourse is perceived. We hope you enjoyed our presentation on civil discourse, and we look forward to seeing your responses to our discussion questions. Thank you.